Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/malicious compliance. In today's episode, so either do this history course or you won't graduate. So be it. You want me to use real bandages for fake injuries? Fine, but it would be insane if something real happened. Your dress code should be more specific. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. So either do this history course or you won't graduate. So be it. Since everyone seems to be posting about how their high schools tried to screw them, I guess it's time I tell mine. Keep in mind, policies and rules might have changed since when I was in school. I should also preface this by saying my middle and high school were very poor, very small, and right next door to each other, less than a block away. The counselor also worked for both schools and many teachers taught at both. Graduating class was less than 50 students, most years closer to 30. So I moved from another state to Washington State during the last month of my 8th grade year. As such, when I showed up to school in Washington, I was told I was going to be exempted from the state history requirement. I was told the requirement was needed for middle school graduation, but since I showed up so late, they weren't gonna hold it against me. So I go through 2 years of high school without any issues. During my junior and senior year, Washington offered a program which let me attend a community college full-time, instead of taking high school classes. I would get my college credits, and the high school would award me high school credits as well. That way, I'd be able to graduate with both my diploma and an associate's by the end of my senior year. The tuition was all paid for by the state, so I only had to pay a few minor fees. Junior year goes by without a hitch. I attend the college and rack up 50 credits. Come the end of my junior year, I'm meeting with the new high school counselor to discuss my next term of classes before the school year ends and everyone goes on summer break. The old one just resigned because she just had a child. So we're having a pleasant discussion about what I'm going to do in the future, and out of left field, she says, "Oh, by the way, you still need to do that Washington State history if you want to graduate. I'm gonna go ahead and enroll you for that." Washington State history is a 7th grade class. So we go back and forth on this, as I insisted that I was given an exemption due to my late arrival in 8th grade. Basically, she was expecting me to go to the middle school for an hour, right in the middle of the day, to take this 7th grade history class. And I wasn't having it. Not only would it make my college classes impossible to get to, since the commute was half an hour each way, but it also right when all the important classes were held, calculus, physics, and chemistry for my fall, winter, and spring terms, respectively. To say I was upset would be an understatement, as I would have had to have taken standard high school courses, no AP since I didn't do the summer projects, that fit around that time frame. So I went home and rung my college counselor, who was so unbelievably helpful throughout this whole endeavor. As it turned out, I didn't need to graduate from my high school. As long as I was enrolled in high school, I could attend the college tuition free. And if I achieved all the requirements necessary to receive my associate's degree, then the college would actually award me a Washington State diploma, which I guess is different than a GED in addition to my degree. So I returned to my high school the next day to speak with her again. I told her what I had learned from the college counselor, and basically, here are the highlights of what was said. "No, that's wrong. You have to graduate from, insert high school name. You don't get to graduate from, insert college name, dot. Counselor. Why not? The program only says I have to meet the requirements for my associates. It doesn't make any mention about meeting the state high school requirements, nor, insert high school, S requirements, nor even getting the diploma from here." Me. "Well, we won't let you graduate. So either do this history course, or you won't graduate." Counselor. "Then I won't graduate." Me. "Well, that's your choice then." Counselor. I leave, go on summer break. Fall semester begins, and on the first day the middle and high school are back, I get a call from the office. College courses started 4 weeks after public schools. "Hi, happy affirmative, so I noticed you were absent from class today. Any reason why you didn't show up?" "Oh, it's my high school counselor." "What do you mean? I'm not taking any classes at the high school." Me. "Well, you're supposed to be at the middle school taking your history course. We talked about this already." Counselor. "Yeah, and I said I wasn't doing it. I don't need to. Me. You don't get to say what you do and don't have to do. This is a requirement, you know. You don't get to graduate if you don't take it, which means you'll have to be here a 5th year. Counselor. Not wanting to deal with their crap, I hung up on her. I spoke with my college counselor once again, and she reaffirmed that I was totally in the right, and that as long as I managed to get another 35 college credits before the end of the school year, I would graduate in June with both. But of course, my high school continued to play their games with me. Thursday morning, about 2 weeks after hanging up on my counselor, I get an automated message from the school for a truancy infraction, saying that I needed to come in and have a meeting with the principal about my attendance. At this point, I was fed up with my high school. So like any reasonable person, I decided I was going to drop out. Meeting with my college counselor once more, I had a lengthy discussion about what exactly was going on with my high school. Being the amazing woman she was, she helped me figure out how I could drop out and still attend the college. She even pulled some strings to help me get last-minute scholarships, which covered like 95% of the costs. Thank you, Ms. Allen, you were a lifesaver. With my future plans better secured, I arranged for a meeting with the high school the following week. Here's the gist of what happened. HI happy affirmative. So, counselor tells me that you've been skipping class for the last 2 weeks. What's up with that? Principal. Well, see, me. He's trying to get out of having to do his history course. The one I've been telling you about. He said that he doesn't actually have to do it if he doesn't want to. Counselor, with a sh*t eating grin. No, I was me. Well, look here, happy affirmative, you need to take your education seriously. How do you think it reflects on the school if you're skipping all the time? Principal. So the conversation continued like this for a while, the principal and counselor exchanging opportunities to cut me off as I'm trying to explain myself, as well as lecturing me on the importance of education and whatnot. So while they continued blabbering on about nonsense, I slide them a manila folder across the desk. A good call. What is this? Counselor. Dropout forms. You told me that you can't graduate unless you do this history class. So I won't graduate. Me. And we all sat in silence for a good 30 seconds as they went from staring at each other, to me, to the folder, and back. I guess they weren't expecting me to call their bluff, at least not like that. This is kind of what they looked like while they were trying to figure out what to say. Now, as I prefaced, my graduating class was tiny, and we were in a poor area. Most every student graduated, probably the staff manipulating grades to get everyone to pass, but the average GPA was not very high amongst my friends, and I was on track to being valedictorian easily. I had a 3.9-ish GPA, was on the varsity track team for 3 years, even as a freshman, and went to regional twice, not state, unfortunately. Not to toot my own horn any more than I already have, but I was also president of my high school's honors society, president over all 5 members. I was set to go to UW, and I made the front page of the local paper for winning $1,000 talent show the previous year. So needless to say, I think I was pretty good for the school's image. So after sitting in stunned silence for what felt like an eternity, the principal and counselor started fumbling over their own words while simultaneously trying to talk to me, and over one another. This is what they looked like when they were trying to talk to me. That went on until they both ran out of breath, to the point where I think the office windows began fogging up. Finally, I was able to say my piece. You threatened to not let me graduate, unless I took this class. Then you threatened me with this truancy thing. I get that you're trying to force me to graduate from your school so y'all look better. At least, I think that's what's going on. But my decision is final, and that's your copy of my papers. I'll be getting my GED this month. And yeah, that's about it. I got my GED and associates by the end of year without any issues. I didn't get to attend my graduation, but I didn't really care. I didn't attend the ceremony for my associates either. I did get to go to my senior prom though, as a guest. All in all, I think it worked out alright. You want me to use real bandages for fake injuries? Fine, but it would be a shame if something real happened. Obligatory disclaimers, on mobile, non-English speaker. After clusterfuck, I finally have some downtime, until the next batch of vaccines arrive, to share an MC story, without going on a rant. Needed background, my country has conscription. That means that every able male between the age of 18 to 35 has to serve in the armed forces for a time. I did mine in the Navy. My specialty was medic, finishing as a petty officer. After you finish the service, you're put in the active reserve list, and they can call you in an emergency and 4 refresh courses. Those can last between a day to a month. This happened during my first such course. Also important, despite servicing in the Navy, due to being an essential specialty, I could be called by any branch. First time was the Army. On to the story. I receive a letter to present myself on a certain date in a certain Army base for a refresher course. I knew it would be annoying, but I arrived on that date with my backpack, and wearing my navy blue garrison utilities with chevrons on. Immediately I had a problem when a corporal tried to order me to sign for a rifle. Medics carry handguns or don't carry arms at all. After that was shorted, I fell in with the rest of the retrainees, as they called us. We're 20 people, ranging in ages from 22 to 45. I noticed that except from me, only one other person is wearing different utilities, light blue of the Air Force, and he happens to be a doctor. The rest are Army, mostly infantry. After 3 days of basically doing nothing, orders came down that me and the doc would have to join the senior class of officer cadets on their war games. We go to request equipment and they hand us 2 first aid bags, medium size, with some basic supplies. The doc asked for more supplies. The quartermaster said those supplies were all we were going to get according to regulations. The doc asked for that in writing before he signed anything out, which was provided. So, Saturday comes, me and the doc get a ride with the cadets to the exercise area. We set up post in the neutral zone and wait. Our job was to provide first aid if something happened and treat and record any casualties of the war games. Almost immediately, cadet that was acting captain from now on, tried to boss us around, complaining about our setup, our lack of discipline, we were civilians, and our lack of polish, we were there just for legal reasons. The acting captain of the other team was much more relaxed with us. The next morning the war games begin. Around noon, our first casualties start trickling in. Each casualty tells us the nature of their injury, we record it, and the doc decides if it's a walking wounded, need to spend time in the infirmary, or is off for the rest of the games, which meant staying in the stage area. Due to not being a live ammo exercise and our small amount of supplies, we pretty much give them a paper with their new status. Next day, first thing in the morning, the captain bursts in and he is in a mood. He starts shouting that about not doing our job. The following exchange happens. Doc, calm down and explain. Captain, you're not doing your jobs. I don't know who my casualties are. Doc, we gave them a paper about their status. Captain, that's not good enough. You have to dress their wounds. Do I have to tell you how to be a doctor? Doc, I don't think it's a good use of our little resources. Captain, no. You have to use it, so I can know who my casualties are. Doc, I still think is a bad use of resources. Captain, I gave you an order. I'm acting captain and you're just a warrant officer. Doc, okay, but it's your problem if something happens. The captain stormed off after that. The malicious compliance. A couple of hours later, the first casualties of the day start coming in. I ask the doc what we should do. Doc, you heard the man. Full trauma protocol. We exchange evil grins and open up the bags. Anyone coming in gets the full treatment. Bullet wound to the leg, cut the pants open, sterilize the area, pad and bandage, and medevac. Head wound, full concussion protocol. Surface head wound, sterilize the area, 3 pads and a couple of bandages to keep them in place. Our supplies are out on the 10th casualty. And then, karma strikes. They bring in the captain with a legit sprained ankle. He goes on a rant about bandaging him, so he can go back to command. Doc, I'm sorry. We are out of supplies. We have to call in for resupply. Captain, what? How can you be out of supplies? Doc, despite me telling you we have very little supplies, you ordered us to treat every casualty as it was real. The supplies are finished. The captain started spouting threats, while Doc put in for resupply. The aftermath. A couple of the umpires, 2 lieutenants, and the quartermaster, sergeant, brought more supplies. The captain tried, and failed miserably, to pin the blame on us. The umpires, after hearing his order, shook their heads and removed him immediately from command. According to the quartermaster, the captain was kind of jerk during training, but got the post because of family connections. For the next 3 days, we went back to our original plan, papers, and treated a couple of real injuries. I don't know what happened to the captain afterwards, but for the rest of the refresher course we had a good time. Your dress code should be more specific. One summer during college, I worked at a telemarketing agency. This was back when telemarketing was a semi-respectable job. I sold lots of different products from long-distance phone plans to retirement annuities via a patriotic credit card company. Anyway, being a semi-respectable firm, our call center had a dress code. Nothing out of the ordinary really. Men had to wear button-up shirts with collars, a tie, dress pants, and dress shoes. No jeans, t-shirts, or sneakers. Women had more leeway. Pretty much the only restrictions were no open-toe shoes and dresses had to be below the knee. Violating the dress code was punishable by being sent home for your shift. One day I had a laundry emergency. The clothes dryer had broken and all of my work shirts were still wet when I went to retrieve them. The only shirts I had left that were even close to dress code were shirts with a narrow collar. That is to say, almost no collar. As such, you don't wear a tie with this type of shirt. I decided to roll the dice. I suited up and threw on a blazer to help camouflage my dress code violation. Once I get to work, I go straight to my cube and work my shift with no problems. This is great. I had just doubled my work wardrobe. So I would wear one of my narrow shirts once a week or so. I didn't want to push my luck. During this same time, I had noticed some of the women blatantly violating the dress code. Way too short dresses, sweatpants, flip-flops, etc. No one ever called them out on it. I figured the dress code had been relaxed, and I just didn't get the memo. I continued to follow the dress code with the exception of my occasional narrow shirts. This went on for several weeks until one day my manager calls me into her office. I figure the jig is up. Sure enough, she has called me in to reprimand me for not wearing a tie. The HR manager is there as well. I tried to explain that you don't wear a tie with this type of shirt. The HR manager replied with, "That's a good point. That's 2 violations." I got a write-up but got to finish my shift since it was almost over anyway. Cue the malicious compliance. It was Friday, so I went home and stewed about the encounter. I hatched a plan. Saturday morning, I went to the local thrift store and bought some of the ugliest ties and button-up collared shirts I could find. One particularly scorching tie I found was knitted, bright orange with horizontal teal stripes. The shirts were mainly pastel colors, but I also found a few gems that included a pink, green, and yellow plaid, a red and neon green Hawaiian shirt, and a red, white, and blue vertical striped shirt. All button up with collars. I paid less than $10 for 10 shirts and 15 ties. To be fair, most of the items were not too bad on their own. However, when I went back to work, I made no effort to color coordinate. The result was a mix mash of clashing colors and patterns that should have come with a warning may cause seizures label. I went to work the full week without acknowledging my outlandish attire. Why would I? I was following the dress code to the letter. By the Wednesday of the following week, management had had enough. Again, I was called into the manager's office. Again, the HR manager was also there. But there was a new guy. Turns out he was an executive from Patriotic Credit Card Company. Manager starts with, "We've had some complaints about your attire." I looked confused. "It's a collared shirt," I replied as I patted my tie as if to make sure it was still there. "Oh, it's not that. Your look is just... well, it's jarring. I don't follow." I drugged this out for about 2 minutes before HR lady had had enough and just full-faced screamed at me. "Don't think I don't know what you're trying to pull, you little sh*t with your ugly clothes." Such language. And from an HR person. Executive guy was visibly taken aback. For my part, one just started crying. Huge crocodile tears. "You think my clothes are ugly?" At this point, everyone in the room is visibly uncomfortable as I continued to ugly cry in the office. Manager attempted to defuse the situation. "What we're trying to say is it's just unprofessional." I snapped up and screamed she didn't say unprofessional. she said ugly. As I jabbed my finger at her. I was loud enough that I'm sure they heard me in on the call floor. I calmed down after a minute. What exactly is wrong with the way I'm dressed? I asked, still sobbing. Well, the colors. She started. I interrupted, what colors am I not allowed to wear? I caught an amused smirk from executive guy. Well, ere she stammered. Because there is no mention of prohibited colors in the dress code. I interrupted again. I don't think this is working out. You're fired. I stood up, collected myself. You will be hearing from my attorney. I said as I left the room. My attorney being my cousin, but they didn't need to know that. So yeah, I got fired. But it was a win in my book. I made them tell me my clothes were ugly. Also, I found out afterwards that not only did the company lose the patriotic credit card company annuity account, the HR manager was fired, asked to resign, and my manager was sent back to corporate. I would like to think I was the cause of that. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.